Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Jan H. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. On Saturday, Elon said FSD version 11.3 should start rolling out later this week, next week at the latest. We'll see. Then, more importantly, he said, excited about many small things. We're starting to make use of neural nets for vehicle navigation and control, not just vision. Now, personally, I like to stay in my lane, so I'm not the one to tell you more about this. However, I would guess that in the future, we'll hear a lot more about this from James, Chuck, and others. Now, what I can tell you is that Tesla has been very selective and limited with FSD version 11 so far. We're talking a select group of employees, invite only. Most of them have NDAs. So Tesla is definitely taking this .3 that's supposed to roll out to customers very seriously before that public launch, which is exactly what you want to see. And it's been about 3 months now where version 11 has been out in the wild being tested by that select group of employees. Although I think this is mostly just political posturing and nothing really impactful is going to come from this, I think we have to at least touch on it. What's going on is there's a new resolution basically to phase out the sale of all new EVs by 2035 just to help maintain the fossil fuel jobs that are the heart of the Wyoming economy. Honestly, I'd be shocked if something like this ever made it into law, because what would they expect Wyoming residents to do in 2035 when there are very few ICE vehicles being made, if any? However, there is this data from the 2020 census, so you will see that Wyoming is at the bottom of this list. So what that means is maybe the entire population of Wyoming could actually be supported by the used ICE vehicle market at that point. But again, I really don't think this proposal will actually turn into anything. I do want to say though, this EV transition is not going to happen without some casualties, and it is going to hurt certain families that are innocent, quote unquote, where they happen to live in economies that are driven by fossil fuels. So yes, jobs will be in jeopardy, but all we can really do is help these specific economies transition to the new future. And with Wyoming relying more on fossil fuels than any other state, we shouldn't be surprised that these folks are not going to go down without a fight. Over the weekend, Tesla's chief designer Franz von Holzhausen was on the Ride the Lightning podcast. Now, we didn't get any new groundbreaking information, but it's always cool to hear from Franz, so it'll be below if you missed it. One thing worth mentioning when it comes to the next-gen Roadster, we should not be expecting it anytime this year, although they are still working on it. And of course, Franz said it will be better by basically every metric compared to the initial unveil. But again, that really shouldn't be surprising. That was back in 2017, so it better be better than what they talked about, even though yes, those metrics were still pretty insane at the time. And you could argue even now. But Franz said if you think about it, a Plaid Model S, it basically hits all the metrics that we said the Roadster could do, which seemed impossible for a car at the time. So imagine, let your imagination run a little bit. However, Franz also said that because Tesla wants to become a mass market manufacturer, the Roadster 2.0 really is not a priority. The silver lining though is he did say we are working on it in earnest. And when it comes to the Cybertruck, he said that the design was mostly finished, but Tesla never really has a pencils down type strategy when it comes to vehicle design. They're going to continue working on it and iterating it all the way up to and through production. But at this point, it does seem like they're leaning toward the yoke in the Cybertruck. And just keep in mind what Elon said at the end of 2021, that variable gain or steer-by-wire yoke would be ideal, and there's been a ton of speculation that the first vehicle to see this from Tesla would be the Cybertruck. We're not going to get into it, but here's a great short little video. It'll be linked below if you're not familiar with steer-by-wire and how it works. The simple takeaway is that with a yoke, it would allow you just to turn it here, and the locking ratio would be different, so you don't have to do the hand-over-hand turning thing. Franz also reiterated that the Cybertruck will have features that we don't yet know about. It looks like the expansion at the Harris Ranch Inn and Restaurant in Coalinga, California is currently the biggest supercharger location. Now with the new 80 stalls, the total sits at 98. And yes, this location does have Starlink internet, but how long this remains the biggest location is anybody's guess, because from Marco, we do know that there are some other very big locations planned in the future in California. It's always great to see big locations like this, but they'll be even better in the future when they're all covered with solar panel canopies. And just one more picture from the Harris Ranch location. Last week, we pointed out that Tesla's inventory had started to dip down, and look at what happened just over the weekend. Not only that, but from the car dealership guy on Twitter, on Friday morning, there were around 696 Teslas in stock on the CarMax website. Fast forward to Sunday morning, 2 days later, that number was down by 50% to 301 Teslas in stock. At last check, that number seems to be down to 211 available nationwide. If you weren't already concerned with the state of our media by this point, then I would just say you're really not paying that close of attention. But then we have things like this. A headline saying Tesla crashes into a garage in Lake Forest, but at first glance, most of us will know that's a Polestar, not a Tesla. So we all have to keep in mind with everything that we see, Tesla and Elon just get clicks, and we have to filter everything through that lens. The covert Model 3 with the manufacturer plates that we saw in the garage a few weeks back was spotted again out on the road, presumably doing some testing. This is what everybody's been talking about for the upcoming Project Highland. Plenty of speculation out there about hardware 4, bringing back an HD radar, potentially moving to a yoke or capacitive buttons, potentially many other new features as well, but for now, it's all just speculation. This right here is the type of data more people need to be aware of. We're looking at Chinese NEV and ICE sales, including both, for December retail numbers. So here are the sales figures for vehicles that fell between the 200,000 to 300,000 yuan range. In that range, Tesla nearly doubled up the second place vehicle, the BYD Tang. And yes, these figures are pre-Tesla's price cuts, but I just wanted to get the point across. When looking at sales data, we really need to do it more in terms of price ranges. Now, in fairness, you'll also see that the Model 3 is below both the BYD Seal and the BYD Han, which are direct competitors. And yes, the BYD Han does come in a plug-in hybrid variant as well. And according to Kelly Blue Book, this was shared by the car dealership guy on Twitter, Tesla ended 2022 with a 64.6% of the US EV market share, and second place in terms of market share for EVs was Ford at 7.6%. From Reuters, it looks like IG Metall is out again to attack Tesla over at Giga Berlin. So IG Metall basically came out and said that Tesla is not giving its workers at Giga Berlin very good working conditions, saying they don't have enough time for free time and leisure. At the end of the day, at least to some degree, the employer gets to set the rules, and then as an employee, you either choose to stay and put up with it or you choose to leave. Pair that with what we already know about Tesla to be true, that they really do take care of their employees, they give great perks and incentives, and it gives people the option to work for a company that has a real mission. That does not mean working for Elon and Tesla is going to be a cakewalk, but again, this is probably a bunch of nothing. It looks like Elon may take the stand as soon as Wednesday for the trial that, yes, is dating back to 2018 from that tweet about taking Tesla private. Elon wanted to move the trial to Texas because some people in San Francisco might be biased against him, but that got denied. Sounds like the jury is being decided upon right now, and opening arguments could start as soon as tomorrow. From Drive Tesla Canada, it's no longer just the Audi e-tron that will be shipping without heat pumps due to the semiconductor shortage, but the ID4 from VW is joining the list as well. This has apparently been the case as of late last month, and VW, like Audi, has no idea when this will end or if they will bring heat pumps back to these vehicles in the future. But VW customers will not be getting a credit or a refund like Audi customers did. And in case you missed my video last week where I kind of read between the lines of what's really going on with these semiconductors and why Tesla doesn't seem to have any problems, I'll link that video above and below. If you didn't know, back in 2020, Ford and VW entered into a partnership for Ford to use VW's MEB platform to build 2 crossover SUVs in the European market. This, of course, would help Ford bring those vehicles to market a little bit faster using VW's platform. Just 2 years later, Ford is now saying by the middle of the decade it plans to build all of its EVs on its own in-house custom platform, which is really what it has to do to ever have a chance of having margins like Tesla has today. And as we've talked about before, these partnerships between automakers are just really hard to execute when you have different companies and cultures trying to work on a project together. It usually doesn't end well. With that said, Ford did say they're still open to building future vehicles on other systems, whether by VW or another company. What I think is more important from this article though is Ford said we are not looking at entry-level vehicles at the moment because for them, the economics and the finances do not yet make sense. Meanwhile, we know that Tesla has been already heavily focused on this Generation 3 platform that will be directly aimed at the mainstream market. And Martin Sander, an exec at Ford over in Europe, said Ford is expecting to make a profit in the European wing of its electric car unit in 2025. Excellent tweet here from Matt Smith. He said the US grid interconnection requests for storage were up 100% in 2021 compared to 2020 and roughly 10x the levels in 2019. These figures were before the IRA made the economics that much better. And here's the chart that Matt shared, indicating that commercial interest in solar and storage has grown. Looking at the solar column, this shows from 2014 to 2021, and you can see the growth in terms of total capacity of gigawatts in the queue. And what's right behind it? The ability to store all of that energy. Enter Tesla solar panels and solar roof and Powerwall and Megapack. On that note, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Martin Luther King Day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.